Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the Herschel Talkers Presents, the College Football Hour, presenting Trey, Baby Driver, Kris, Casual Fan, and I'm Angry Scott. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Good, man.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022, fellers.
Yes, sir. Hopefully better in 2021.
And I'm sure the real reason that we're sitting here talking tonight on what is today, Tuesday, January 4th, is we're going to cover that Tax Act Bowl between Kansas State and LSU. Because what the fuck is that doing on Tuesday, 9 p.m., January 4th?
Scott, we're trying to pad our 5-6 SEC overall record so we can go 6-6 and 500. You know why, Scott?
Why is that? Because it means more? It didn't mean more up until the playoff games are like January 1st. It meant less. Weren't you like 0-5 or something before
we started
January
rolling.
1st?
We were 1-5, and then the New Year's Eve we rallied. So yeah, we're getting better.
Well, you know what they say, Trey. You can't spell second without SEC. And guess what, motherfucker? SEC is going to come in second this year.
That's right.
And first. But definitely second.
Exactly. All right, we'll jump right into it. So first of the playoff games on New Year's Eve was Alabama Crimson Tide, number 1 against number 4 Cincinnati, 27-6. I wouldn't really call it a beatdown. When I was watching it, it looked like a business trip for Alabama to me. I knew that Cincinnati was in trouble when Brian Robinson, what are we going to do on the first drive? I think we're going to run it 5 or 6 times down your throat. And he just going to roll. And I was like, and then went down there and scored. And I was like, not good right there. And then I will give it, Cincinnati came back. And I think they had a guy open in the end zone and just couldn't get it to him, kicked a field goal. And it was 7-3. And then when they only had 3 points at halftime, and Brian Robinson, 204 yards. You got him going, and it felt like Bryce Young a little bit. He was a little uncomfortable, and I'll admit Cincinnati did hold him, and he kind of held him to it was only 17-28, 181. He did get 3 touchdowns, but had some pressure on him and a pick. But I saw it as just 27-6, kind of a business trip for him. Kind of got in, got out, and they knew what they had to do.
Yeah, when I was going on, I was watching. It reminded me last year a lot of when Notre Dame and Bama played. That it was still closer than what you thought it would be, but it was, they're just like, let's just hold back a little bit for, the championship game. I mean, to your point, I kind of said, okay, what are they going to do? And it's just like, we're just going to run the ball down your throat and you're not going to have an answer. And that's what they did to start the game. I was like, okay, well, since he's going to have to go and what are they going to do to, keep it close, especially early? Didn't they go down? If memory serves me correct, didn't they have like a field goal? Like, was it the first quarter or something, or was that the second quarter? Cincy.
Yeah, I think it was actually their first drive. They dropped, and it was 7-3, and then
it was all downhill after that.
Well, that's right, and you got to go and take advantage of where you can when you're scoring field goals instead of touchdowns. That's going to add up, especially versus Bama. And, when I saw Ritter, man, he had a bunch of knockdown passes. I haven't seen that many knockdown passes, except for like last night. If you watched the Browns-Steelers game, Baker Mayfield had every fucking pass knocked down. But, you saw a lot of knockdown passes, and that's something they prepared for as well. I mean, it's Bama. Cincinnati's a good team. It's just, look, man, you came in, you got your ass kicked. But, you came to play. I think it could have been worse, but they did stick around. It seemed like even that. What was the score at halftime?
I think it was 17-3.
17-3. I think they got like a
in third. It was like competitive in third. I mean, it wasn't completely blowout.
That's right. I mean, it wasn't until later in the game that they kind of Bama finally took over. So they had it close enough. It's just that every time Cincy came out, man, they did not have an answer. They couldn't do enough offensively, and then hey, we're just going to run the ball down your throat. So it's domination on Alabama's part. I mean, we're not surprised. If you're going to go as the underdog and you're going to go upset Bama, you got to come out. You got to get some turnovers. You got to do some other things early. You got to get those touchdowns instead of field goals. And it just didn't happen. I mean, it's a great story, but this is why it's so tough. There's no knocking against Cincinnati. It's just that's how tough it is to compete against Bama.
Yeah, let me give it to you from a disillusioned Homer's perspective. It was you can call it a little bit of a moral victory for Cincinnati, right? They put the little school on the maps. They've proven, hey, Power Five can finally get in that top four. I was a little concerned in the first quarter, especially. Well, let me backtrack. I was encouraged at how they were able to drive the ball up until they got to the red zone. And then that's when I think Bama really turned it into a business trip, decided to stiffen up a little bit more, and that defense turned into a brick wall. A little disappointed in how Ritter didn't step up a little bit more. Trey, in our last one, you mentioned Bama's kind of struggled with the mobile quarterbacks. I thought Ritter would have turned on the Jets a little bit more, kind of scrambled up a little bit. But, hey, credit to Bama. They kept them contained. They bottled up Cincinnati pretty well.
You think it was one of these, maybe they just weren't, the lights were too big for them? I know it's first playoff game. I'm sure they were excited to be there. And, Bama's been there so many times. I think that was a little bit of an advantage too.
Absolutely.
If I'm looking at that, so Desmond Ritter, he didn't have any touchdowns or interceptions. It just seemed like, every time they're trying to do something, even when he had that one play, like a designated run late in the game, oh, here you go. Man, they just couldn't get it when they needed it. It's just, Bama had dialed in exactly, the defense to stop them. I mean, they're a well-oiled machine. They're a great coached team. It's typical Bama, where you still have 18 to 22-year-olds. You never know who's going to show up. But with Bama, it's just one of those, man, they always come to play, and just you're not going to see too many undisciplined players out there. So that's, Cincinnati's really got to go and strike early. And, they did. They'd kept it competitive most of the game, and then Bama was just too much,
Absolutely.
And I think I'll quote my boy, Josh Pate from 247. I think he's on the Late Kick. I listen to him a lot. It's a great podcast. The padlock stat, if you just said before the game, if you go, Bama's going to run for 301 yards, you're like, game over, right? You just you can't give that up. I mean, and they did have, I will say from a Georgia fan that the secondary and the defense did better than Georgia. They're supposed to be, this elite offense. Obviously it wasn't in that game. So if you give Georgia's performance, if next Monday they can hold them to 27, I think we got a shot. And
I think, and to your point too, Trey, I think that if that same Bama team played, and this is no knock against Cincinnati, I just think that Bama did what they had to do to get by. I don't think they did anything, super shiny. I mean, it's just hey, here's where we're going to run the ball, and you can't stop us. Especially that first drive. I think they only had like one pass the first drive. So it's just like they just didn't have an answer. And that just shows you nothing against Cincinnati. Hey, Bama's just a better team. It's got more depth, better athletes. Not on every position, they just have more depth, is really what it is. And they just didn't have an answer. And that being said, I don't think Bama played as good a game against Cincinnati as they did against Georgia in the SEC championship, but it was still, they didn't have to, you know what I mean? If that same Bama team came out and they used that same exact formula, I think Georgia wins that game against Georgia,
I agree. It was basically get in, get out, business trip. But Bama's Bama, and Saban's got a chance to win number 8. So we'll get into that. I did want to bring up, I believe Scott wants to comment on this. I believe Stetson Bennett made a appearance.
Yeah, I didn't know that Stetson Bennett had enough time to play, to be both a Cincinnati fan and then played later that night in the Georgia-Michigan game. So here he is. I guess he's shocked he's at the game, but I imagine this looks just the same way Stetson Bennett looks like with his shirt off. And he's like, look, man, you're only down 7-0. If it was Georgia and Bama playing, it's probably going to be worse, right?
That's that look. He's like, oh man, I got rent money on this game.
He does. Hey, and to be honest, like Scott, I'm not sure if Ohio State or Georgia, the Georgia fans, what would you wear a scarf? Like, I don't know if that's a scarf or is this
so what it is, they started doing this in soccer games, or as they call over there, football in Europe, that they give out those scarves for the whatever match you're going to. So they started doing this years ago during the playoff games. They started giving out those scarves, and I think there's something that says Cincinnati, Alabama. I don't know if people get those scarves coming in or they have to buy them, but I believe that's what the scarves they have on, Trey.
Yep. Little known fact: Cincinnati's turning into a pretty massive MLS city. So FC Cincinnati, huge following, like rabid fans almost. So check it out for those who are into that stuff.
The other thing I'll say, to just give you the Ohio State perspective real quick, is, man, I got nothing against Cincinnati. I like Luke Fickell, but I also don't want them to, if there's a really big recruit, I want Ohio State to get them. They still should get most of those big recruits, right? But now if they consider, well, I don't know, hey, I can go play in, the AAC right now, but, eventually go play in the Big 12. Maybe I should go to Cincinnati. Well, hey, got your ass kicked. So maybe that, helps Ohio State a little bit. I don't know. And we'll talk about in the next section here with Michigan getting their ass kicked. I mean, that I thoroughly enjoyed, because Michigan wins a national championship, then that could hurt us as well. It probably shouldn't hurt recruiting that much, but in theory it could. So I got nothing against most Cincinnati fans, but there are some people that started pounding their chest. Hey, you might be the best team in Ohio this year. You might be. But year in, year out, it's Ohio State when it comes to the best, college team in Ohio and the Big Ten. So, for all the other Cincinnati fans out there, and I know you're out there listening to this podcast, thanks for listening, but you got your ass kicked. So if you're pounding your chest, and there are some Ohio State haters out there in the Cincinnati fan base, there's a lot of crossover, but there are some Ohio State haters out there, and you think you shit in the stink. Well, you had the opportunity to come in and to the college football players and get your ass kicked as well. So hope you enjoyed the trip.
Yep. Scott, let me counter that just a bit.
Sure.
You could say they won the battle. Cincinnati's won the battle this year. Recruiting, it'll be interesting to see how it does pan out, to your point. But as of now, Luke's got the bragging rights as best in Ohio, best to finish the year, right? Finished higher in the rankings.
Well, they might.
I think you can convince some recruits, though, especially when it comes to competing and all the other good stuff. I think you can lock in and make a couple valuable recruiting steals.
Well, but to your point, Kris, to counter that, did they finished better at the end of the year in terms of they're in the playoff and Ohio State was in the Rose Bowl, but did they really finish better? And what I mean by that is they got their ass kicked in the playoff game. And by the way, it's happened to Ohio State before as well, but Ohio State won their game. So really, if you want to look at the end of the year, I think they'll still be ranked higher than Ohio State, and I think they should be, but there's a chance they won't be ranked as high.
True story.
All right,
I guess we'll find out.
Hey, since you guys are debating, I got a question for Kris. So, Kris, if Cincinnati and Ohio State ever play, who are you pulling for? Is it just
forever Ohio State? Love my hometown, but loyalties are always scarlet and gray.
Just hope it's a competitive game, not a beatdown.
Yeah, I would love to see it be competitive, but always going to pull for Ohio State.
Okay, there you go.
So another little known fact there, Trey. Here, I'm going to throw some trivia. Do you know the last time that Ohio State football lost to a team from Ohio? Don't answer this, Kris, if you know it.
You're in luck. I don't.
Okay.
Not sure.
I want to say you can go ahead and check this. It's either 1916 or 1923. Wow. And I want to believe it's Oberlin College. So the question is, does Oberlin College still have a football team? I don't know. But if they do, you've got that on your resume. I'm guessing if they have a team, it's like Division III or something now.
Has Ohio State and Cincinnati played before just because they're so close?
They have. I mean, they played several times recently. I know in 2002, when Ohio State won the national championship, they played Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had the ball, I think, within the 20-yard line, that they had four passes that they could throw into the end zone to beat Ohio State. So it was close. And that
was very close.
That's so Cincinnati is definitely a better program now than what they were. I mean, that's what you got to hope from Cincinnati's standpoint, that you got the right guy, that you can keep Luke Fickell. You can pay him enough money. Hey, you're going to go to the Big 12. You're an Ohio guy. Because in the past, it's, hey, we're going to – Brian Kelly, he got them to, an undefeated season, and then they got their ass kicked by Florida. I want to say that was 2009. Tebow's last game, and Brian Kelly was on to Notre Dame. Of course, Brian Kelly's now on to LSU, and he's got that Southern accent. It only took him about 2 hours when he got down there, and he realized he had a Southern accent. And then you had Butch? Was it who was the guy who went to Tennessee, Champions for Life guy? Butch Jones. Butch Jones, right. So he started at Cincinnati as well. I think he might have been under coach under Brian Kelly. So in the past, it's one of those stepping stone jobs that that's a hard position to be in, man. It's, what you want to do is usually when somebody's a head coach at Georgia, Ohio State, that's like the top level job you can get. You're probably not going to lose them. You might, but who knows nowadays, like Riley's of the world, but you're probably not going to lose them. But Cincinnati is one of those programs that, hey, if you're doing great there, you probably want to move on. We have a bigger opportunity. So I'm curious to see, will Luke Fickell follow that trend, or will he stay and really build, a dominant power out of Cincinnati?
I think he's a builder. I think Luke's a builder. He's got a great opportunity. We covered it a little bit last week, but again, Big 12, bigger spotlight, a little bit more revenue money, right? Again, he's building his own legacy there. He's lost, what's my guy's name at Notre Dame now?
Brian Kelly. No, Marcus Freeman.
Yes, Coach Marcus Freeman. So, I mean, you're going to lose some of your assistants, but I think Luke's in it for the long haul. He's had some tough games so far, and look at the spotlight he's been under. I think he's done under old Cincinnati standards or under old EC standards. He's done pretty well, really well. I just think he's going to use that to build.
Well, what I'm curious of, though, too, is, yes, it's a move up, but I wonder, is the Big 12 going to become what the Big East used to be? The Big East, they kept on getting teams defecting to the ACC, Miami, Virginia Tech, then it was Boston College, so on and so forth. And then, boom, the Big East, football-wise, just dissolved, and then it became the AAC. So you've seen a lot of defections from the Big 12. We got Nebraska, Colorado left for the Pac-12. You got a couple leaving for the SEC. There's about every program they've all left for. So you got 12 teams again. I don't know for how long, because I just think the leadership. I mean, it's fine football, but it's just the leadership, man. They're probably, from a leadership standpoint, that's like the new Big East. So will it eventually be 4 power conferences, or I don't know. That's, television contracts and all that stuff. Who knows what that's going to be? But I mean, it's still a step up in competition. That doesn't mean that Cincinnati can't move on to another, conference or something if that's what it came to.
Yep.
What are your thoughts there, Trey? Do you think the Big 12 is going to be here in 10 years?
I'd say that's one of the lesser ones that wouldn't be. I think I could see that one crumbling.
Well, they don't have the mantra. It means more. They have please stay. That should be their mantra. Please stay.
It is. I thought they were done when Oklahoma, Texas. I thought it was going to crumble, but hey, they added people. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it's like, man.
Okay. All right. Well, we will on the other side we will talk about Georgia, Michigan.
All right, boys. Good show.
Good show.